This week's oil is cypress. Cypress is one of my favorite oils I use every day in many different ways. Predominantly, for me, it's an incredible support for increasing my circulation and lymphatic flow. It really creates flow. I think that's the easiest word to remember when you think of cypress. Just think of flow. And so we're thinking lymphatic flow, emotional flow, blood flow, things that feel stuck. It's a really great oil to use, if you have restless legs, if you have cold feet, if you have a sluggish liver. It could be a great oil for support premenstrual cycle around the liver and also on the abdomen. It's great to help the urinary system, so applying it to the kidneys and down the spine can be really helpful to increase flow there in that system. So yeah, it's just really great. It's really nourishing to the hair and skin. It's a great oil that can be energizing, but also we've diffused it at bedtime and it is incredibly calming as well. There's a freshness around it. And emotionally speaking, in the same theme as flow, cypress is really great to use at times of transition in life. So whether that is like you're moving into a new role at your job or a new role in your life, maybe you're having a baby, maybe you're getting married, maybe somebody died. Cypress is really good at being sort of your ally in transitions. When something is changing and it's quite dramatic and you need that support to just get to the next position. It's also really good on the chest. Again, being sort of in the realm of trees, it can create a spaciousness and support coughs and things like that if it feels right for you. I find it very gentle for children as well, where things like peppermint and even eucalyptus can be too strong for the little ones. Cypress has been a little bit more mild for the kids. Yeah, for more information about essential oils and cypress, you can follow me at Humanly Designed.
Welcome to the Finding Free Thought podcast.
This podcast is funded by you. To support our work, please consider making a purchase from our Free Thought shop. Check out my campsite at campsite.bio/goodresonance, where you can follow me on social media, make a donation, subscribe to my newsletter, check out my essential oils offerings, and grab my restorative teas ebook. Please subscribe to the audio version of this podcast on Apple and Podbean and the video version on YouTube and Rumble.
Be sure to check out my 6-episode sci-fi comedy series, Simon Esler's Dystopian Imaginarium, along with my 60-minute comedy special, Theorize About Conspiracies, and my 3-season hit show, Worlds Within, all on Rise TV. And don't forget to hit up SimonEsler.com for all of my work, to join my newsletter, for links to purchase my NFTs, make donations, and follow me on all social media. You can also join my locals community, Team Free Thought, at teamfreethought.locals.com, where I'll be offering subscribers previews of new sketch comedy material, documentary work, and private broadcasts for supporters only. As a member of Team Free Thought, $5 a month gets you all of that plus a 15% discount at the Free Thought shop. Welcome everyone to the Finding Free Thought podcast. We are very glad to have you here and very glad to have today's guest, my good friend John Paul Rice. And we're going to get deep into lots of amazing things and really, unpack some free thinking. Welcome to the show, John.
Welcome.
Hey, pleasure to be with you here. And thank you for thinking of me even to be on your show. And congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. So, we wanted to get into a lot of things today. And I know that you've been in a certain space with news and politics and a lot of the tensions that are arising in the world today. And, for us, we've been really coming, like some of our experiences responding to news and some of our experiences responding as parents. And so, there's things like really divisive issues around what's happening to children right now, for example. There's the tension coming up around gender theory and trans, drag queens, and all these things. And so we had some personal experiences with this recently, where we were out in the city and, our children were exposed to something that was sort of hypersexual. For those of you that haven't listened, we did an episode on this, and it was really about how the sexualization of children has nothing to do with left and right. It really isn't more a left-wing thing than it is a right-wing thing. It just is. And so, maybe we could start there with just unpacking perhaps the misstep that a lot of people are making in considering the sexualization of children to be just a political thing, like a left-wing problem. And what you've sort of experienced in that realm, or how you've been unpacking that as you've seen the news cycles unfold.
Well, thank you for that question. And if I somehow, just because of my nature of thinking about things as I work through them, to give you detail, if I happen to get off track, just kindly bring me back, because I'll reacquire. Trust me, I will. Child abuse has been with us since the beginning of time. Child abuse, what we think of it, really needs to be defined at a base level of neglect and scaled up from there. We can no longer look at ourselves as being separate from a psychopath, a sociopath, a narcissist. The nexus of pedophilia, the nexus of pedophilia, psychopathy, sociopathic behavior in all distributive forms is narcissistic behavior. Narcissistic behavior that came from a mother and father, if they were lucky to have one as a child. Narcissistic behavior as a child in a child is self-defense. It's trying to protect and maintain its false image of itself that it has to hold up to its mother and father to make itself loved, to feel loved. It goes to the extreme to feel loved beyond what most people can consider normal for a child to do, to win the mother's love or the father's love. And there's a ritual that every child goes through, and it's bringing what it finds to mommy and daddy. And it brings it to mommy, and mommy has what she says is so beautiful about it. And then it goes to daddy, and what daddy says about it is amazing too, because daddy sees it differently than mommy, but they both like it and they like what I'm doing. This is all of us. And when our responses change, that child does not stop doing that behavior. It keeps coming back. But it may learn in time not to trust our voices. It may learn in time not to trust our hands. It may learn in time not to trust the tone of our voice, because it shifts. And we have to adjust, like a prostitute learns to adjust. A girl or a boy who's human trafficked has to acquire the learned behavior of reading a person's eyes, tone, and body language in order to protect its own life so it won't be killed in that moment when they're with a predator in the room who has mother issues, but obviously he's there to pay her to fix it. And she has to get out alive to live another day so she can have another day to make more money with somebody else who's less crazy. These are the realities of the things and many others that we have not talked about in this country or this world in at least 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 600, maybe even 1,000 years, if it was ever discussed before. Our parents were born in a time with 2 world wars and a Great Depression in between. And they grew up in a time when their parents, there were no child labor laws. And alcoholism was rampant throughout the day at work in men. That's where you got the suffrage, and then you got the abolitionist movements, prohibition, sorry. It all fed into the same thing. And look, we can talk about the occult's role and all that. It doesn't matter. We're here now. The reality is that we have allowed ourselves to despiritualize ourselves by giving ourselves away to authority and asking them to do right by us, which is basically a substitute for mother and father. Our mothers and fathers were born during the baby boomer generation, which meant after World War II. the majority of those men coming back all had PTSD and raised children with that in them without a proper diagnosis and without proper treatment or any kind of information that we have available today to disclose, talk about care that can be given on a mass scale. They were given checks, they were given homes, they were given discounts, they were given college educations, but all of it was to go back and serve the system and create the next generation. And all of those little girls and boys that grew up in the 60s, ready for a revolution because they were programmed from their mom and dad's childhoods to rebel. And then they were given the 60s by the CIA, which is known today. That's not a mystery to anybody anymore who's looked into it. The hypersexualized culture and the revolution of feminism that came in. You take away, let me just say this, you take away these programs, these mind control programs, these psychological mind control programs, these responses, these psychological stimulants that are put out there, sedation, stimulation, these levers that are turned through time and space. You remove the trauma of the ritual of Roe v. Wade, which was, first of all, never a right to be granted nor taken away to begin with. That's the whole thing. And it was also a falsehood because not only was it a federal law that didn't apply constitutionally, it was based on a falsehood of a lady that later came to say who she really was and what kind of person she was, and that she lied. And she wasn't of moral character. And look at what the media promotes today to be looked upon. None of them are of moral character. So this is the same program that's been going on for decades. And then what we have now is what people believe today, not what people know as fact, but what people believe today, the repealing of that law meant. Because they have their own understandings as to what that means to them emotionally. They're not believing things based on what the politicians say. What the politicians say is connecting with how they feel inside, because they have a society from 9/11 to now that has pretty much messaged them that they don't matter to anyone in authority. We're surprised. We act surprised and shocked by this. I look at the right wing and I'm going, folks, I get where you all are, and I'm not against you because the opposite. Mm-hmm. But that's low-hanging fruit for which you don't have to be accountable other than a position that is more sane than theirs in this time, but it's still being held up by billionaire people and multinational corporations now that are playing you on both sides, and you're taking positions within these people to get to the next election cycle and think that this is going to change things. Let me just explain to people what's different about this time. Two years and some change ago, they told the entire world, 7 billion people, you all are going to die from something you can't see. Even though it had a 0.4%, 0.4% chance of being killed by it, it broke apart. And with the lockdowns, it broke apart think about you all know your life alone. Just consider your own life and all the different dimensions of it, dependencies, dimensions that they're just so intertwined and entangled, shattering all of that literally overnight to billions of people worldwide. Hundreds of millions of people are on their way in or are there in extreme poverty that had no previous thought that would ever be the reality right now. Millions of kids are dead, having committed suicide, and adults all over this world as a death ritual in response to the lockdowns and the way that our governments and authority has managed this. And we say it's all kind of like an accident and it's just corruption. It's us doing this to ourselves because we continue to listen to them. We continue to debate the insanity that is given to us. And whether you think this is an operation or you think it's organic or you think, if we could just only do this, it's like, yeah, you're looking for a mechanical answer in the Matrix. You have just watched the Matrix come alive. It's online now. It's real. It's not asleep anymore. The Matrix is alive. The transhumanist agenda. Let me just say this for the people who say, oh, but John, the arrest and the stepping it down. I know all about that and more, and it will all come to fruition as it does. But what you're not looking at is all of this content that is being created right now is being made possible through the belief of psychic, conscious mind content online in a vessel, a temple, where these monsters for millennia have come at us through trauma-based mind control rituals called psychological events such as wars and recessions and plagues and all of these things. All right. Whether they created them or allowed them or the coming into, however it be, they have been culling the population for generations and hundreds of years. My bloodline is from the 5th century. They know that. They know everything about you. Whether you submitted to Ancestry.com or not, that just gave them a head start, but they're going to come and they're going to try to find your biometric data. They want all of it. They want your intellectual property to own, but they're going to offer you a lot of good things in response to this time. They'll sour your opinions on the people currently managing it who want to come in and be invasive. But if the other ones are not invasive, but say, hey, look, we got a new digital financial system here. All that wealth that you lost, you can regain. All you got to do is just scan your thumbprint right here, just like you did on that Apple iPhone, or scan your eye like you've been doing it for years. This is all ritualized. That's what it's all about. It's turning on all the keys now and lining everything up so that all the things of the last 20, 30 years come online and go right into the program. They've got it ready for you. They've got the bucket ready. This is the prequel to the Hunger Games. They've divided us up, not just by race, not just by religion. They've got all of the inversion of truth to play with, all of our ignorances. We didn't know. We trusted authority for our health. The progressives wanted Medicare for all. I mean, because the Republicans were just saying, well, you got to earn hard and, pay for it. And then it just keeps rising and rising in cost. And then they help each other screw you over, right? Until it gets to a point where, okay, we got to do something about it now. Yeah. I mean, the people have spoken after, 8, 16, 20, 30, going back. Oh yeah. Even the ones that we killed long ago that were speaking out about this before it became more widely known. That's all it is. And so now they have no other choice, because the rise in all of this is, we're just talking about knowledge right now, because this is depressing stuff. Okay. I get it. It is. No, it's like, yes. Well, that's great. So basically you're saying we're effed. No, I'm not.
Well,
it's the acceptances. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I've talked plenty.
You're saying, there are a lot of programs, and sort of instead of outsourcing our authority to all these programs, while emotionally it might feel pacified, it might feel good for a moment, it might be that sort of trauma response with authority and all of this. It's really up to us to find our internal authority and sort of not just automatically adopt a program because we're scared or we have, this past. We do, our bloodlines are deep. Our sort of history is very deep and filled with trauma and fear.
Right. But we're spiritual beings. That's the key.
Yeah.
It's like all of this and more is true only if we don't have that connection. That's the part that they're trying to wage a war on. Is to block us from those connections, which are humanly, they're child born into us. This is the thing that I mean, people, I'm just saying is people look at me like when I talk, and I mean, there are stuff that I do know that, is pretty wild and crazy and whatnot, but that's not where, I guess what I want to say, I want to turn this back over to you, but but that we really need to focus, all this stuff that you mentioned, Simon, about the transgender and all the things with the children. It's like, yes, it all has to go back to the children. It cannot only be about the perpetrator. Getting rid of the perpetrator only solves that past crime and problem from all the other it's like this. People who get DUIs, right? Multiple ones, those are the times they got caught. We got to stop them, period. Totally understand that. Nobody is sitting here going, oh, we just need to understand and, forgive them. That'll come in time if we can get to an understanding. But the reality is we have to understand that no matter what you want to do with those perpetrators, you have to come up with a plan for a safe world for all children. Because without that, there are going to be many other perpetrators, many other enemies to fight to protect children, but we won't get to the place we want to be. We will constantly be killing our way through all of the perpetrators that we perceive are a threat to our children. And that can go on for much longer than what we're seeing right now. Just understand that, because this thing has legs for years if it continues, if it's allowed to continue. And if we fight the problem, then what we're talking about is perpetuating that problem. We're adding more fire to that problem, reinforcing that it's a problem and that's where the solution is. Anyway, I yield back the rest of my time.
Well, we talk about this a lot, that there has never been a world for children. Humans haven't done that yet. And so any notion that we need to go back to the old ways, or it's like, oh, modern times, the kids are on too much screens, and we need to take them back to the forest, and it's like the way we used to. But truly, there was never a world that actually honored children. We've never figured that out as a species. So this is totally new territory. To really honor innocence and empower the human race via the innocence that children arrive with, we have to shift into a totally new paradigm. And that's something that we really look to do as parents, that we really feel we're attempting to some extent, to whatever extent we are capable of, to raise children outside of this matrix, or at least with the awareness of it, that they can navigate it with their own inner authority intact. And so, I think that's why it's like what Amanda brought up, this process of finding inner authority amidst this chaos that is constantly demanding you externalize authority, that you externalize and give up different positions of power within yourself to these external authorities. And so, there are a lot of ways to talk about this in terms of culture. Like for me, I'm constantly interested in the idea of cultural production and what it means to produce culture that helps people understand the absurdity of it. For example, seeing that the end point of the sort of gender warfare is not to indoctrinate children into trans life or LGBTQ, any of that. It is transhumanism. It is, the end point of it is transhumanism, and it's so important that people see that the end point to all of this is transhumanism. And that could get to a point where even the trans men and trans women are seen as bigoted because they don't accept the people who have hyper-technological bodies. Like that, they just they'll throw anyone under the rug as they steamroll us in this direction.
Where does it end?
Yeah. It just it doesn't exactly, it ends with the total dehumanization of the human race. So, what has your experience been healing and coming about this awareness yourself in terms of being a producer of culture? Because you come at a lot of this from the lens of a filmmaker and as a content creator yourself. So how do you view the process of sort of participating in these culture wars, so to speak, but not playing into those dichotomies that are false to begin with?
God, that's a great one, because and first of all, I want to thank you both for what you both said, and I want to hear more about what you have, Amanda, in mind too. Separating yourself from the two is a story in itself because it's emotional. And our stories of authority all have heroes and villains. This last story, this is the last story that's coming in. This is the last story they're going to tell, the Luciferians. That's what I'm seeing, and just it all makes sense for them because they don't want to be here anymore. When I go out, here's what I do. When I go out, when I say I go out to a square in a town of 75,000 people, and black, brown, white in the South, Georgia. It's actually not the racist place that most people think it is. In fact, I'll tell you one thing. I walked into a gun store 2 years ago when all this crap was going on with George Floyd, and 55 plus year old white ex-sheriff and all white, young 28 plus 35-year-old men in law enforcement behind there, and a group of 4 black kids walks in. I say kids like of age to own a gun, but still young, including a girl. And they were all waving at each other, saying hello on a first name basis because everybody understood what was going on. So then I knew we'd be fine because they're not programmed. They understand what's going on. What I do is I don't take the world to my world. So when I go out and I talk to people, I don't bring up the war. I don't bring up COVID. I don't bring up anything to do with anything on the news, because the way I look at it is I want to offer them something that nobody else is offering them. If that's what I want to do, if that's really what I want to do. So I have to learn, and this is kind of sad in a way, because it's like, well, do we have to relearn how to, do we have to relearn how to re-engage people? Yeah, well, I don't think we have to relearn. I think it's always been in major disrepair. It's just become more obvious now that how the hell billionaire-owned corporations can control what someone thinks in someone's mind with a mask on or not. And you have those thoughts embedded in your head for and against before you even speak your mind with that other person. You see what I mean? They've owned that space in your head rent-free. Okay, how do you break a spell like that? By being the very thing that doesn't comport to it. It doesn't reinforce the magic. So if you become the very thing that you want to be, which it sounds so difficult, and yet it's not. It's having to let go of things that, I'll tell you what it is. It's part of the reason why they use nostalgia. If you look at the Super Bowl halftime show, okay, what it does is it's like you want to escape, but you want to remember all the good things. And then there's the bad times that come in between, but you're holding on for hope that it can, like almost like a codependent, sort of like a child of an alcoholic in the backseat of a car when mom and dad is driving, recklessly, and you're just screaming and shouting at them to please, for the love of God, slow down, pull over the car, turn the car off, hand me the keys, and you know that they're not going to do it. That's what you have to let that, you have to let go of the fact that their world, the world that they want you to pay attention to, is their world. And yes, it does affect us. But if you really take away all the news cycle and you go gas prices, energy, rent, I'm like all the kitchen table stuff, that they so supposed to care about so much, kitchen table issues, all of the kitchen table issues, yes, they screw you, right? But they just fill it with story in between. You're outraged at Hunter Biden, and then it switches next week to over here. You get what I'm saying? It's like, it's just interchangeable. it's just, they're just pulling the cords back and forth to see, okay, well, now let's go with it. You know, now that we've got them, you know, amped up on pedophilia, let's give them a little bit of transgender. Let's get a little salt and pepper of that going. And so what you do is you realize when you don't engage people this way, most people are not wanting to even talk about it in the first place. And in fact, when you get to know who they are and you start to find out what's going on in their life, they start to open up and become your friend really fast, especially in a time where everybody's, you know, okay. Yeah. All right. I'm just saying, you can be the anomaly in the matrix to wake them up by just being present with them. That's what I've learned is so very valuable, because it's like, and this is what I was going to ask you, Amanda. It's like, how do you do that? It's like when you look at your children, do they know of, I mean, granted, as they get older, they learn a lot of things, but is it that the world is on their shoulders about, you know, billionaires and trillions of debt and taxes that they're going to, you know, I mean, maybe the kids will say, Dad, what's taxes? Or, you know, like, or go to school and say, Daddy puts his, you know, money in the walls and in the mattress, you know, like whatever, you know, like, you know, that's their understanding of it. But what I'm saying is it's all taking cues off of you. And here's what I'm going to tell you that is really trippy as hell. Okay. This is the thing that I write down notes all the time because I'm like a mad scientist. I have dreams, and I'm not one of those guys. I got some downloads for you all today. You know, like I got this mother goddess energy that's coming into me and speaking. No, please God, you don't need another one of those people, you know, and nothing wrong with that. Fine. If that's your, you know, sure. Cool. I'm not mocking anybody. All right. Everybody's got to go to, but what I came to understand when I was listening to these quantum physicists, and I can't list their names right now, but it's Billy Carlson, I think he's one of them, and Donald, this other guy, and I've listened to Leonard Susskind on black holes, and I'm just going to tell you this, okay? Based on everything that they're talking about, and I'm looking at Greg Braden, Joseph Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, and other people, and I've listened to some podcasts here and there. This is what I'm going to tell you all, that really you should try to imagine what this means and think about it deeply. What these people are saying, and this ties into Carl Jung, Jordan Peterson, Alan Watts, Joseph Campbell, and the like, okay, and many before their time. Imagination, that word, that elusive word, imagine, create it, manifest. What the hell does all this mean, right? It's imagination. There was a quote in the Bible. I'm going to give you a couple examples to build up to this point. There was a quote in the Bible that talked about if you, what is it? A line in the Bible that said, if you lust after your neighbor's wife, you've already committed adultery. Okay. Now you can say, well, Jesus, that's a little fucking, you know, out there. It's like a little change. Like, no, because let's go. We're going to go 1984 now. What is 1984? 1984 is Ghostbusters. Okay. And they're up at the rooftop, the penthouse, you know, they've turned into these creatures, and Gozer the Gozerian says, choose your destructor, right? Choose the form of the destructor that is to come to destroy all of you. And so Bill Murray goes, oh, okay. All right, everybody just clear their mind, right? Just everybody clear their mind. And then the choice has been made. And you're like, what the hell? You know, like everybody freaks out, and it's Ray. And Ray's like, sorry, guys. Just popped in there. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you know? All right. And so we know how it goes. But the point of that is he created it through thought. That's the magic of what I'm talking about. Now, you can say, oh, God, John, that's a movie. I'm telling you, this is what the quantum physicists are telling us right now. They're saying, you bring in another time in your mind with a new thought that comes online and becomes a new reality right then and there that day as a potential in the field. You are pulling in an actual potential that already exists to the field. These are doors that are already there. These are keys that are already there waiting for you to find. This is the real power that we have. Manifestation, creation, imagination, love, heart feeling here. To what? Heart feeling in a quantum field that actually can perceive time so where we perceive time here, the quantum field of our heart on average across all human beings born on this planet right now perceives a future state at a rate of 3.5 to 4.5 seconds ahead of our perceived reality that we experience. What the hell does that mean? And what if we could learn to extend further timelines beyond 3 to 4 seconds, as the CIA has suggested in their disclosures of astral projection? Now, let me be very clear about this. I don't believe these things should be gone and played with, because in this time, part of this stain of authority, of false authority and failure of authority, the lack of trust of authority, is going to lead to an enormity of cults. People seeking answers. Kale bop, sure. Committing suicide, yes. But we're talking about trauma-based cults, because people are seeking healing. Sociopaths seek an audience. So do psychopaths and narcissists. So do not underestimate this time. What I mean by this is because people can create whatever reality they want to, and they're going to do it electronically or on the ethereal side, summoning in spirits that act kind and friendly. I'm just saying this because it's important that we understand that all of our intentions that we put out there in our hearts, this is not about denying how you feel and just being a goody little two-shoes there and, thinking only good thoughts against all the bad thoughts they have inside. You've got to use this time. I've been saying this for 3 years, but that's not the point of why I'm saying it now. I just keep telling myself, you've got to use this time wisely to get this temple, this body, this mind in order for what comes ahead, so that we can deal with it rationally, creatively, and break spells right then and there, because you are the living truth of that embodiment for which you're offering. Your lived experience, Simon, your lived experience, Amanda, makes you extremely valuable, more so than an academic or corporate authority in this time. For the people that need answers, they're going to seek it in the system, because that's what they've been trained to do. If you create the bridge, if you create the life, if you create the children that are the embodiment of the very things that all the systems and the matrix say are not real, but they come to know you, guess what? You've saved another. You've brought another soul back to God. If there is a game to be played in this time, it is coming back online and remembering what you were when you first came in here, with all of your gifts as a child. Yeah. That's why the whole purpose of raising children up in a society where we don't have to fight against indoctrination. And the reason why it would be that way is because everybody would know what a child is. And if they know what a child is and what a child really is in relation to what its specialness, its preciousness, its magnificence is, we would then begin to see that within ourselves and each other. But most importantly, that's the first step. We have to see it in ourselves and each other. We have to take the scales off of our eyes. We have to lift these distortions off. We have to stop painting with the same brush that they hand us. We have to command a new language that does not comport to arguing or defending ourselves as white or black people in opposition to each other when we have a difference of opinion. and immediately going into racial stereotypes as far as reasons why things don't exist. It's like, no, listen, the thing is this: 70% of African American families do not have a father in that equation today in the United States. That is abhorrent. And it doesn't matter whether it was Republican or Democrat. Let me just tell you this. The Republicans have been bitching about South Side of Chicago for as long as I could remember. And I started paying attention and questioning it. Congratulations, Ben Shapiro. You have gotten me to question a leftist narrative that they constantly ignore. Well, what is your solution? There is none. There is none. What? More police? What? So community programs? Oh, we can't have those because the left always does the thing that we don't want them to do with those community programs. Well, then what the hell is the answer? Well, they're just going to have to fend for themselves. Well, hold on. So we're not going to do, I'm just wanting to understand here. So government programs run by tyrannical people who basically answer to pedophiles and authority. We can't somehow put love into that equation if we're going to still legitimately tax people, to put reinvestment into communities where it's not woke policies coming in, it's common sense policies that a Republican and Democrat would have to support because it's so effing self-evident, no one could argue that it isn't true. Do you see what I mean? When you go right to the truth, you shatter the illusion. They have to deal with it. What's the common denominator in those families? Child abuse. Why? Because all that shit that's going on every single weekend in the home, played out or on the streets, started in a bedroom, started in a bathroom, started in a kitchen, in a garage, in a basement. Mm-hmm. Years before it went outside and became a statistic. And we have to start realizing that and start being accountable on some level for our own communities to say, I don't want to live this way anymore. How can I fix it? It starts with you.
You know, there's a lot of things I think there's a lot of things I want to unpack in terms of what you said. Like, I know that there's the concept of manifestation that we've talked about a lot. There's the idea of the body always traveling ahead of time compared to the mind, right? That the body is always ahead. And this is like, that's old science. I remember growing up and there was this like Heritage Canada ad. It was like to talk about like Canada's heritage, and it was a breakthrough scientific moment that had happened in Canada. And it had to do with some kind of open brain surgery where they noticed a time differential in that, like, the body was able to respond before the stimulus somehow, and that there was it didn't really make any sense to them. And so I think this is a really important factor in our capacity to travel through this life. And we've been deep into studying human design, and one of the things that it has reflected back to me is this notion of the vehicle that we travel in does not relate to time in the same way as the mind. And in fact, the vehicle's capacity to be connected to our whole life path, that's one of the things that opens up to us when we find presence in the body. That our life path is alive in our body, to the extent that the body it's ready for moments before they arrive. And presence with the body, it creates this attunement to future moments that haven't unfolded yet. And, you know, I'm curious what you have to say, Amanda, about that process in terms of like manifestation and our capacity to manifest and how that fits into all this, because we've been talking about this a lot, and people's misunderstandings about the human capacity to manifest.
Well, I think for me it's about, before I was thinking manifestation comes from the mind alone, and now I have a sense that it's actually really truly being directed by my physical body. And like, I loved how you were saying, like, it's all about sort of clarity of body and mind, but I always knew there was wisdom in the body intellectually, but I never understood what that really meant, because my mind was still always driving all my decisions, and I was always like, well, I think I might want that, and I think I might want what they have, and I think, so, but what was really, that's all mental. That's all the program.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly right.
The program, like
yes,
the American
your wants
dream,
and your likes.
all of these things, and I'm going, wait, what does my body really want? And so now reeling it all back into a lot more reflection and a lot more like whatever, body work, breathing, simple things like that, where you can just take some space from a triggering situation, take some space from an emotional program, and even just seeing it as a program, watching it and going, there's the program running through my mind. There it is.
And it's tricky because these programs, when they create an emotional response, that's how they get access to the body, which is this precious vehicle, right? Because once the thoughts create emotions, then you have the biological cascade that can make it perhaps uncomfortable or undesirable to be in the body. It makes you kind of not want to be in your body because it creates this cascade of emotions. And I think this is what people miss about children. Is that they're so deeply and beautifully in their body, in their vehicle, that they have this attunement that we struggle to even conceive as adults. And so, there's nothing to return the children to. And this is a tricky thing about parenting and conscious parenting, that it's like, I have to notice the difference between my journey back to my body and guiding my children to stay in theirs, which is not something that I did experientially. I left mine. So it's a really, really tricky thing.
Congratulations.
It's like we're trying to do something I've never seen anyone do. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is. And I think in terms of manifestation, like there's, when you look at like programs within programs within programs, I often do feel it's important to see the program within the New Age sphere and see the ways that people have been programmed through New Age concepts. And I think that the main way that people were programmed through New Age teachings is that it's like hyper vague. It's all extremely vague and nebulous. And
very subjective.
It's so subjective, and it doesn't give you the specificity you need to arrive in your hyper unique individuality. You're so incredibly unique. You can't even conceive of how unique you are in the entire cosmos. And so when you're handed New Age concepts that are nebulous and vague and non-specific, how could you ever arrive at your special nature with those tools? And so when you look at a concept like manifestation that's given to people, I think it really takes them out of that journey towards living in harmony with your life path. Like, get away from trying to control your life path and arriving in, like, there is already a path for your life to an extent built into your body. Your body is going to travel this path. And we've all seen this, right? We've all experienced this, where it's like, my body keeps bringing me to the same lessons over and over and over again. And like, clearly there's something going on here that is pre-planned to an extent.
Yep.
And at the same time, most of us are here to achieve a personal destiny. Something that we came here to carve out as these unique beings. And so this is a really...
Unaware that how it's going to end.
Yeah.
That's the best part, right? We have a destiny, but you don't know how it ends. That's right. Exactly. Yes. That's the whole point.
You only think you know, or what you want.
Well, and so that creates this leap of faith, right? To leap into the body, to trust the body instead of the mind. The mind is the worst authority. Oh my God. Like, even if screw all the outer authorities and the corrupt politicians, sure, but my mind also not really a great authority. Not gonna it's not a good decision maker. It's really not good. It's especially since my body is like half in the future and it's giving me amazing information. Like, why? No.
How can you make good decisions, sir?
So, we've really been deep into this process of like, what does decision making look like when you allow your body to be a part of decision making directly. And like your body has been offering that, and this is where children already are. Like we watch our children very carefully in terms of their capacity to make decisions for themselves, and how you know, one child's process of decision making is totally different from our other child's process of decision making. It's again hyper unique. Hyper unique. You know, they each have an internal authority that is their internal authority, and it's not like
time and space. They're all in their own time and space.
Yeah, exactly, which gives them their unique view, which gives them their unique purpose, and there's all these things you see. It's just unfolding over their whole life.
It's beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
When you embrace it that way. I mean, I haven't had children, but I've been around children my whole life.
Right.
And I mean, I've watched them grow into adults, you know, my nieces and nephews, and it's just like those little moments, they're not things that came in an accomplishment or an achievement or anything. When that, and it's just magic that happened right in front of you, right? And that thing that you mentioned about learning, there was a guy years ago at Google who did a bird's eye view camera, and he trained his children all these words. Right. They just kept repeating, like he had a certain, you know, this many times this word, this many times. Right. And he went down the list, and then he let his kid go out and play, and he watched them. And what happened was like what you were talking about. This one learned this way, totally different personalities, same parents. Where the hell, you know, like, you know, it's like a brother or sister from another mother or brother, you know, like father. But the thing is like what he took with it is that the little kid took all of that was downloaded in him. And he went out and he applied it. And he anchored it. And he anchored the words, not by the repetition, but by where he could anchor those words in his reality is when he started to say the words. And he said them in frequency to those places as it became an emotional bond. This is how powerful we are. We create reality through our words, our thoughts, our feelings, in the vibrational ways to our children, that mommy and daddy could be saying one thing in front of their child, but really it means another thing. And the child takes all of it in. And the child just records all of that, and it starts to develop ritualized behaviors and patterns in response to it. And the parents go, what the hell is my child? Of course, this doesn't mean that the parents are terrible. Because what we haven't looked at in the grace of all of this, and this is hard, this is really hard. You know my story, Simon. I don't have to tell you about my childhood. And I came to a place where I had as much unconditional love and forgiveness for both of them, for which I tell people, if you had read the story and their rap sheet, you would have said, put those people to death immediately or incarcerate them. That was my mom and dad. And the truth is that my mom loved me, even though she was mentally ill. Manic depressive, borderline personality disorder, bipolar, schizoaffective, schizophrenia. That was my mom. Joe Biden is Hunter Biden's dad. Holy cow. The president of the United States is your father and all that you know. That's his dad. He doesn't know anybody else. As a man that grew up with him and raised him, however it be, that little boy who is a crack addict and all sorts of things that we abhor in our leaders or any of our political leaders and families and anybody's family, right? But that was a little child when he first came in. If we remember this, if we remember what we are and where we came from, and we start to really think about what that means, the depth of it in relation to the children that we're raising, in the relation to the children we once were, we will find ourselves having far more compassion for almost anybody on this planet. When you can follow that story back to the very beginning and know that the reason why you're seeing this horrible thing right here in front of you is because that was not his plan A in life. Now, he made bad choices, but I'd argue, and I would say this again to my conservative friends who think this is all about a set of choices and that all choices are equal and that all choices are the same choices for 7 billion people on this planet. And if they could only just see, and well, I got the crap kicked out of me a long time ago and I turned out okay. Well, then you get out there and tell everybody else in this world who can't get it together how you got it together, and your program should work for all those other people who got their asses kicked, just like you.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I don't accept that anymore. 70% of those kids don't have a father. You cannot sit there and tell me that in a hypersexualized, materialist, and ultimately violent culture that we should expect that person to know what to do in a sane society when they come from nothing as such. Mm-hmm. That is our misunderstanding. That is our disconnect. That's our separateness. That's where we start seeing ourselves differently from our children, and then tyranny begins to rise. Because our children, the ones that don't have the good parents like you all are, that have the certainty of love in this time, are going to grow up hating this world. There are many Christian people that I know who are turning to Satanism right now because they had mothers and fathers who were religious, who beat them as kids. Mm-hmm. This was the closest person to, this is the person supposed to love them, beat them, and then gives them religion as an answer for their sin. You can't argue that with how they feel. If anything, the lesson that should be learned in this time is that you cannot argue away from how someone feels. You can't shame and guilt them away from how they feel. Try going out there right now and talking to anybody about COVID and telling them your point of view and how you have all the facts and you can show them all the data, and they're going to argue to the cows come home that you don't answer to peer-reviewed studies and authority on TV. And the way you win this thing is by hearts and minds. And we've been at this. I think the thing is, we've been at this for so very long in our species that this is the generation that finally gets together and starts to figure it out and spreads that idea like a virus of love with blueprints and lived experiences, and says, this is how we screwed up and how we fixed it. You know, instead of charging, $5,000 for a weekend workshop, you say, hey, I'm going to give it to you away for free because I want you to be my neighbor and I don't want you to hate my guts and ask, why the hell is he so happy all the time? And you're like, well, come over to my house and pay me $5,000 and I'll tell you. It's like offer a meal, give them a meal, break some bread, get some investments going. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, that Simon guy over there and Amanda, they got some good ideas. What do you think about that? He's like, he doesn't trust the government. I don't trust the government. But he's not like those other people that don't trust the government on TV. He's like a normal guy who doesn't trust the government. I'm a normal guy who doesn't trust the government. I like this guy, right? He's got some good ideas up there. Get some thinking.
Yeah.
Imagination, creation, new ideas, new possibilities, new potentials, things that break the spell, right? Don't going up trying to fight it with authority. I'm just saying there's another way. You do need people who are going to defend and fight. You need warriors out there. Okay. Let me just give this one thing. Okay. Cause some people go, what are you saying? Just let the tyranny come and then collapse. No, I'm not. There's a sheriff I know in the South here. He's made some very, what they call controversial statements, really matter of fact stuff, not political stuff. And I got to sit down with him and I asked him something, and he's a man of God and he came to Jesus in steps, and he opened up, and I adore him. He's a real human being, crazy man. In his past life, seen a lot of crazy stuff since he was 21. First day he was on the force, he saw 10 domestic violence cases at 21 years old and wanted to quit. And his wife, he went home to her and she prayed with him. And she said, no, they need you out there. So he's been doing it for 40 years. 35, 40 years, seen people die, had to put men away whose children he saw, like as kids. He saw them as kids and they had to put them away as adults. He's seen all that. Okay, so what's the point of me telling you all this? Because this is a real warrior for Christ, if there ever was one, with all of his sins and flaws. He told me, he said, John, I won't hesitate to pull my gun and use it on anyone who brings this satanic crap here. Okay? But he said without hesitation or without contemplation, he said, and I hope I never have to. That's a man. That's not somebody who's cavalier about killing people and getting it out somewhere. That's a guy who's seen hell on earth and has a higher respect for faith ever than before, and believes that should always be a last resort. That's real gun control. That's what should be advocated. That's what should be preached, in addition to all the training and the marksman stuff and all that. But
yeah,
it's a shift in a mentality. It's rather than, chest beating and brow beating and saying, bring it on. It's more like, I don't want to live in a world where I have to go out with a gun and think that I might have to use it today. I don't. Yeah. I don't. Canadians don't. Australians don't. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to go out. And unfortunately, what now? It's a world where we're going to require technology to surveil behavior and curtail it and identify it before it rises up, maybe. Not necessarily that, but before it gets out of hand. Psychological profiling in a time where mental health is a premium right now is definitely going to come online. And I'm not sitting here saying all is lost, folks. It's only lost if you sit here not doing anything about it. And what is it? Oh, we got to do something about it. Don't sit there and think you're going to vote this out and destroy the matrix. The matrix is contracting, it's consolidating. They're letting you see something here. And part of it is they're giving you a chance to get out.
I was just thinking that there's this contraction going on, and as the control system becomes more rigid and sort of tightens and squeezes, it's true, it actually makes the breakthrough more plausible. Like when it was less constrictive and people were sort of given more space in that way, you can tell since 2020 it's been like this squeezing of humanity's mindset, this pressure. But I think it makes the breakthrough point for individuals and for the collective more plausible. And I think there's hope there. This crack in the wall, this bit of light that can come through because of this pressure. And so there's great opportunity there for people, I think, in adapting to the pressure that way, and that really is, that's mainly what we're about in this podcast, is really like the finding of free thought is a really tricky thing, because it has to do with recognizing what you don't know.
Okay. Yes. And that's perfect, because it's the question of if a tree falls in the forest and you're not there to hear it, did it make a sound? And the question is no. But to know if it fell, you'd either have to go and see it for yourself, or you'd have to have somebody else report it to you in context and tell you, and then you'd recreate the tree falling in there to believe that it in fact had fallen, because they showed it to you on the ground. Yeah. I'm just saying, but it is, you don't know what you don't know. But you know what? In this case, it's not ignorance being bliss. It's more like bliss being bliss, right? Because if you don't fill your head with that all the time, it does exist. It always has existed. I mean, let's just, for the trans kid, issue. Drag queens have been around. Transvestites have been around for hundreds of years, thousands, really. I mean, kings, queens, all that royalty and crazy stuff. They're putting it in front of our kids now, right? On a very blatant and deliberate level to agitate. But the reason, the thing that's most horrifying really should be is, how did all of those things come together in the first place? In other words, the kids the kids are innocent. Okay. The parents are confused, I would say at minimum, as to what's going on. They don't know, or they feel that way and don't see, like and I'm not equating it to that, but like a beauty pageant. Okay. To me, that's a horror show. I've seen different documents. It's a horror show for those kids. In my view, it's abuse, it's child abuse, and it's pageantry at a level that it's very sexualization of children. Okay. Do those parents see that? I don't know, but they obviously don't, to the point that they have a problem with it being normalized. Yeah. So we look at it and go, okay, what we're talking about is people at a transgender level that have, and this is going to get me, people are going to get all upset about it, but I'll explain. When you have people that have a higher rate of depression and suicide, you're not dealing with mentally stable individuals. That is not because there's something wrong with them and that they're not, they don't want to be in their bodies. They don't feel comfortable and safe in their bodies. We can just say that, okay? And why that is a whole other debate that should be had. Not to condemn or persecute them, but to sit there and say, we should actually go to the real people who have come out of this and say, you know what happened? Here's the reality. I was leaking urine out of my hole for over an hour after I peed every day. They don't tell you you're going to do that. Yeah. So I smelled like piss when I was trying to look like a woman. This is not me saying this. This is the, these are the things that, so you let them talk, and then you shatter the debate of trans rights and all this other stuff. It's like, no, these are the real trans rights to me. Yeah. They've lost their rights. They've lost their dignity. Yeah. They are trying to get that. They were only trying to get that in the first place. And look at where we took this to such a level that we said one size fits all. It doesn't matter. You all are a bunch of bigots. I hate you. And we're not even going to the people that are actually suffering. Look, this is about Jesus. Okay. Jesus went, you know who I'll just tell you this right now. If I had my bet right now and I were to pick who I'm going to be with in the end times, it'll be all the leftists. Right now, all of the leftists, all of the pedophiles, all of the girls who've been human trafficked or strippers or whatever you want, all of the dregs of society in the end. Because if you look at it, that's where Jesus went. He went to the lowest of the low in a broken world. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, this is where we have to get out of this. Invite them over, bring them to your house, let them know. I'm not saying, you go up to somebody who's in the act of murdering or killing or beating. Excuse me, sir, would you like to come over? And, it's got to be tactful, and it's got to be strategic, that something that you want to actually do, not to prove to yourself that you're a good person. Yes. You have to be, open up, have humility. Yeah. That's what it's like. Holy shit. That's like authenticity and truth in this time is really, really good thing to do, because there's not a lot of it going around.
Yeah. Anyway. It's true. Be authentically you. And that can be, triggering to some people, but whatever.
It could be for you. Your authenticity is triggering me right now to make me feel something I don't want to feel deep inside.
Exactly.
Stop triggering me with your authenticity.
Your love is killing me.
No, it's true. Well, and I think too, like, authenticity for the person being authentic can be really uncomfortable, right? It's sometimes more comfortable to be inauthentic. A lot of the time it's more comfortable to be inauthentic. Yeah. To stick with who you are through all of this, a lot of the time it feels like shit.
There's a result. Yes. The spirit. Welcome to the spiritual journey.
Yeah. Feeling good is not a sign you're on path.
No, and this is like, you go back and you see people like they're using like the channeled material of like Esther Hicks and all that, where it's like it's all about just feeling good every day. I just try to feel good. And what's my goal? To feel good about feeling good. Feel good. That's back to that new age stuff where it's just like super hyper vague, generic. And really the truth is that if you're not struggling with the discomfort of becoming who you are, then you're probably not doing the work. Like, if you're finding out a way to be safe and comfortable every day, to me, it's unlikely that you're doing the work, because if you're on Earth, you're traumatized, you're all twisted inside, you got stuff to work out. You got to come back into your body and find your inner child. It's just like, it's such an uncomfortable.
You're like, it's just, you buy a ticket for it and go for it. It's like, how much does that cost, sir? A lifetime. And you're going to lose a lot. You're going to lose a lot of the things you want. You're going to have great disappointments. You're going to cry without not knowing why. You'll lose some friends in the process too, but you'll come out on the other side. You'll come out on the other side. I promise you. Come out on the other side. Even with 5 minutes to spare before you die, you'll still say it was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sign me up, please.
I know, we jumped in. It was wild. Okay, well.
I know, it's fun times, isn't it? What can we do, Simon? What can we do? We've been talking around about it all day long. What can we do, Simon? Lay it out. What are the 10 points? Come on. I'm kidding.
I have 1 point, which is that I need to find laughter. I have to laugh at it. I have to laugh at the absurdity, or I will die.
Yeah.
Like, I truly need to laugh at it. But the trick for me, of course, as it is for a lot of people right now, is not getting caught up in laughing only at one side, but laughing at all of it. This is why I really like.
Your comedy is great.
Finding a way to cut through all of it, to flip everything on its head, and to laugh at the whole thing and ourselves at the same time. That if you're going to laugh at that, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. And if you can only laugh at that and not at yourself, then there's something really imbalanced going on. And I often find this where, like, sometimes I'm writing like something that starts out as a political sketch maybe, and then by the end it's me making fun of myself, and then I'm like, there it is, there's the balance, that's the way to do it. Where you've got to find, like, if I want to make fun of that, where is that in me, and how absurd is it that I'm ridiculing the thing that's already in me? So that really has been my approach, and I'm in the dregs, I'm in the creative trenches right now, trying to bring to life this comedy series, and I'm, that's been my struggle, is not just making it like political humor, and not like, sometimes maybe, because there are times when one side is being so silly that, like, I laugh out loud so hard at it that I want to share that, but at the same time I want the overall takeaway to be, keep flipping it on its head and looking at yourself, and flipping it on its head and looking at yourself, and just like, that's my personal ritual in the creative process. It's like, just keep completely looking at it differently than self-reflecting. And, that's been very useful for me, and slowly but surely is getting me to a point where, I can invite people into a way of laughing that doesn't couch them into one side. And that's a big challenge right now. I can't say that I've arrived there, but I think that's my larger vision creatively right now, as I'm looking to solidify something that I can sustain for a long time in terms of creativity, and having a show that shares that process.
How are you supporting Amanda? Because I don't get to hear her story anymore. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, Amanda, I'm really only at the point where I'm at, having been guided by Amanda, quite frankly.
Yep. You learn. You know what? You learn the thing that most men mock and later learn in life, that they're really stupid to say the things they do at the time, which is, behind every good man is a great woman.
Oh, yeah.
And because I've seen, like, as I watched in Los Angeles, great men, supposedly great men getting taken down by bad women. And they weren't really great men, but they could have been great men if they hadn't been taken in the wrong way. And it's not about women deceiving men in this case, that he was just a good, billionaire, that she just, or they just snagged, she's just this little innocent little girl that, just didn't understand the big world of finance and all this. No. These people, there's our world, that we have a certain decorum that most human beings deal in. And then there's their world, which you just you go, that came out of her mouth. Yes, it did. Okay. I'm going to move on, and I'm just not going to judge it, whether it's a man or a woman. I just go like, hi. So, but what I'm saying, this is one thing I want to share with you, because I think, you've known me for 3 or 4 years now, something like that, 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
And this ties into the two of you, because this is the first time I've seen your wife. I've never seen you, and I've seen your kids, see a picture of your kids. It really is the truth of the matter is that I could not be where I am today, where I am right now, without the woman in my life. One woman. And it's not that she did all the work. She was my moon. She was my mirror. She showed me gently, with unconditional love, what it was that I was actually doing, without me having to go, oh my God, I am a horrible human being, even though I felt that way. Mm-hmm. It's like, I didn't even know I was doing those things. And there were things that, not that, well, should I have known them? Well, yes, if I didn't have the life I had, I should have known them, right? I mean, that's not an excuse once you know, but like to know that you're like, oh my God, I can't even believe that's what I'm doing. Yes, that's what you're doing, asshole. Like, please stop. But the thing is that you go, I didn't, and then you feel like all shameful, and then you're like, oh, I've been a bad little boy, and then you just like want an apology and a hug, and it's all this like, it's all this weird thing where you like shrink down. You're like 5 years old. You're like hiding from her and like want to go run away, and then at the end of the day, it's like, I want my mommy. So then you go back. No, I mean, it's different than that. But that's one of the dimensions of it. And I started to realize, when you're not aware, when you don't, so it's like this, there's love and awareness, and love becomes possible with awareness. That should be said more often, I believe. Yeah. Because one of the things that I learned from, and this is just one of many things, but it's a line that Leo Gura said on a podcast on Theories for Everything with Kurt Jemangjo. He said, people who hate are in love with all the wrong things. It's that we're looking for love in all the wrong places. We're looking for it in the Matrix. We're looking for it in our celebrity culture. We're looking for it in our pornography. We're looking for it in our magazines, our celebrity, all the beauty, all the fashion, all the program that says your self-worth is compartmentalized into these brands, right? The truth is that our self-worth is what we're fighting for. In a sense, our inner child is wanting to come out and play in a safe world for all children, not just fight to make it one, but to live it as one. Mm-hmm. I don't really know where I was going with all this, but just to say that it is, when we can combine unconditional love with this equation, which is unconditional love is not declarative, it's agreed to, and it's understood between two people, and it's agreed to what's permissible and what's good. It's not about, capping you with certain boundaries and making you be about, you got to be a good little boy, Simon, because if you're not, and you're just a bad man, and you're going to be a terrible father, and I'll make sure to divorce you faster than your head will spin, like all that. Isn't that love? Isn't that togetherness? It's like threats from the love of your life. It's like, don't you? But it's a really good one. I'm telling you, it's fair. It's fair. If you cheat, I get half, but it's only if you cheat. But I know you, because it's not addressing the behavior. Yeah. His desire or her fear, one or the other or both, are creating that situation called, and I'm not, again, I am not coming down on people for where they had to judge things and do things in their lives. I'm just saying, if we want to get out of this bondage and this slavery, We have to open up. We have to open up our minds. We have to start speaking to each other, talking with each other, do all the opposite, the exact opposite of all the crap that these people have made us do over the last several years, to separate us, to isolate us, to cover us up, to put us away from each other, to hate each other, to wake up every day in Groundhog Day and want to die, stuff like that. Like, it's time that we said that's enough. And we take that birthright back, not by being violent and hating all of them, because that's a win for their program. That's a battery that will continue to fuel that program. Trust me on this. They want you to keep paying attention. They'll do every twist in the plot that they can to keep you watching. Trust me on this. Even the side that wins that you want to see win. Trust me on this. Mm-hmm. It's only to get you into that place where in 2 to 3 years, when all of this stuff is shaken out, we're in a new time now, but nobody has remembered how we got here, and nobody can tell the story straight to every single person out there that this is what happened and this is how the world events, as they allow them to unfold, are going to shape their history. Everything else is from the hidden layer of God that is going to destroy that. And so we can play a role in bringing the kingdom of heaven on earth as it is in heaven by anchoring it here, being the very thing that we are. We are the real value. We are the battery that they run off of, and they need us until they can't use us anymore. Why don't we give ourselves a head start today and cut off their supply so they can die on the vine like they should have a long time ago? And we go on and we live in a world that is safe for all children, because it's made up of people like you and you who love each other and continue to work through all of those things, rather than take your day out on each other or your children, and make your children also resent you and each other. So congratulations, you're the success story. Everybody follow Simon and Amanda. They're going to give you the parenting tips. And the 5-part series, I understand, is coming out next week. Is that right?
We are working on a series.
Okay, so this was a really sophisticated infomercial for your...
And here's the selling point.
Sorry, I thought we were recording.
Okay, well, speaking of children, we do have to get back to ours very soon.
Yes.
Is there what can I direct people to join in your sphere and your work and your influence?
If you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram the most when I post anything in my stories or on my wall. That's at No Restrictions. I'm also on Twitter and Gab there too, but I just don't post that often there. My website is norestrictionsent.com. You can find all of our movies on Vimeo, available worldwide for rental on there, and download. A Child's Voices on there, 1 Hour Fantasy Girl, Memories of a Lost Love, Mark's Secret to Eternal Life, Game Day, which is our new film, and that one is a story about dysfunctional families that never give up on loving each other, but they fight passionately as hell. And it's all about family secrets being revealed, and people may want to check that one out. There's a universal theme in that about love and what makes the truth possible. Well, what makes healing possible when you begin to tell the truth. Tubi, our movies are on Tubi.com. You can look them up under Edgar Michael Bravo. And lastly, if you love independent film, I am making a studio in South Carolina, the 21st Century Film Studio, that is going to focus on bringing in the best and most daring independent films that Hollywood will not make for the entire country. Wow. And I am courting investors. I'm not trying to make a pitch for this necessarily, but if there's somebody out there that listens and says, you know what, I like what you're doing and I want to know more, we have a pitch deck. We have a bank. We've got a law firm, Nelson Mullins. We've got a team of people putting this financing together. We're not looking for tens of millions of dollars. We're going to do a very scalable business model. Our business model is to make movies under $1 million, which means we only have to sell 2 to 3 million in total revenues, with marketing and distribution that we are going to run as a studio, marketing, distribution, and finance for independent films in the country. And if you have a movie and a script, now this is the thing, when I always do these pitches, I get hundreds of solicitations or dozens or singles of people who've got a script. I can't do anything with your script right now. I would love to know about you. So please introduce yourself to me, but understand that I'm trying to put the money together. So anyway, that's a long roundabout way of saying I am looking for people who are like-minded, who want to tell stories that matter in this time and fill the void that Hollywood has left. And Hollywood is not what it once was, nor will it be, but art is art. And Frank Capra said it best. Frank Capra, who did It's a Wonderful Life, said it best. He says, you have 2 hours with them in the dark. Mm-hmm. You've got more power than the president of the United States in those 2 hours to change their lives than that man will ever have. And more importantly, he said, so with that, you can show them something that will change their lives forever and amaze them. So do it.
Right on.
Right. That's what we're doing. We're going to do it. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We're going to do it.
That's incredible.
So, beautiful.
Anyway.
Well, I really look forward to hearing about the unfolding of that project. I really believe in your work, and I think that's great news. Great news that you're expanding in that way. And I can say that we're really glad to have had you on today, and we would love to have you back on the show in the future and just keep digging deep.
I would love that, brother. And I hope you keep in touch with me and let me know anything that I can do to help spread your work. I think one of my favorite videos, well, I know you've done an amazing job of informing people, but one of my favorite videos that I got the biggest, I guess, shares and reactions out of you is the one you did the bloop, whatever with the if you can do that for me, because I was like, how did he practice that, Amanda? Did he do that in the mirror? Like, I'm going to come up with a and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, what was that? That was so damn good. It was like you told the whole story without saying any words. And I wanted to watch that like 20 freaking times. It was hilarious. I felt happy every time I watched it.
It's a song by Vitas, which is like a weird European opera singer who makes dance music. And it's a clip from this weird song that I was like, I have to make a reel with that song. It's too amazing.
That was a perfect choice. I want to keep that, like, just for a rainy day and just put it out there in front of people. Like, if you're feeling like shit, just put this on for like 15 seconds and have some fun.
It's true. I'll have to admit, I watched it many times after I made it. I was like so satisfied.
That's what, hey. It's got your A game on. I love it.
That's right.
Cool.
All right, brother. Well, thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.